Hey, fourth grade, it's just me, Mrs. Schumann, no Zern. It's just me, myself, and I today. We're going to start off with our table of contents. We are on the next page, Module 5, Lesson 23, Notes. And whenever you're ready, you're going to flip to the next blank page so we can get started today. Let's start off this lesson with the multiplication sentence that maybe we would have seen earlier in the module. Something like 6 times 1 over 3. I know that the statement 6 times 1 over 3 means 6 groups of 1/3. If I wrote it as a repeated addition statement, it would look like this. 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3. 6 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, of the fraction 1/3. Now at the start of the unit, we would have needed a tape diagram to model this, but now that we've done all of this addition with fractions, we know that when our units are the same throughout all of our addends, our sum also has the same unit. So since these are all thirds, we still have thirds in our answer. Now we just need to count up our numerator to see how many thirds do we have in total. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. I have 6 thirds. Like you may have noticed, we have an improper fraction here. So we've practiced in the past couple of weeks how to decompose an improper fraction into a mixed number. And we do that by pulling out one whole group. One whole group out of 6 thirds is 3 thirds. 3 thirds equals 1. So now let's see what's left over when I take 3 thirds out of 6 thirds. 6 thirds, take away 3 thirds, is another 3 thirds. So if this is 1 whole, and this is 1 whole, that means that my mixed number is, well, the number 2. 2 wholes. 6 times 1/3 equals 6 thirds, which equals 2 wholes. Let's practice decomposing improper fractions that have more than 1 whole. We'll try it again with this multiplication sentence. 8 times 1/3. Just like in my last problem, I'm going to make the connection between my multiplication sentence and repeated addition. 8 groups of 1/3 is like adding together 1/3 8 times. Let's take a moment to write that repeated addition statement where we add together 8 groups of 1/3. Since all of the units in my addends are the same, thirds, that means my answer is also in thirds. I just have to add together all of my numerators. If I count up 1 at a time, 8 times, I have a total of 8 thirds. Just like in my last problem, I'm going to decompose this improper fraction where I have more than 1 whole, and I'm going to decompose it into a mixed number. So first I'm going to start by pulling out 1 whole group. I'm even going to mark 1 whole group using parentheses in my number sentence, like this. There are 3 thirds in 1 whole group. Just visually looking at my number sentence and seeing how many thirds are still left, I know I still have enough room to pull out another whole group. Kind of like this one right here. Here are 3 additional thirds that I can pull out. And I still have leftover thirds. I don't have enough to group off into 1 whole. I only have 1/3, 2/3. So now I'm going to decompose 3 ways for each of my thirds and my leftover fraction. So now my mixed number is going to have 1 whole plus 1 whole plus an additional 2 thirds. 2 wholes and 2 thirds. Let's practice this 2 more times. Only for these next 2 problems, we're not going to use repeated addition. We're just going to use our multiplication knowledge to solve. Ready? Let's solve 4 times 1/2. Instead of writing out a repeated number sentence, I'm going to take a look at some observations I've made from my other problem. 6 times 1/3 equals 6 thirds. 8 times 1/3 equals 8 thirds. When we multiply a whole number by a fraction, the unit stays the same. We're multiplying the numerator by the whole number. 4 times 1 is 4. And we're going to keep the halves the same unit. 4 times 1/2 is 4 halves. Let's decompose 4 halves into its whole group. I can pull out 1 whole group. And what's left over? Another 2 halves. Which means that 1 plus 1 equals 2. Let's try 11 times 1/4. I'm going to keep my units the same in my answer, which is fourths. And I'll multiply my numerator by the number of groups I have. 11 1/4 is 11 fourths. Knowing my 4 math facts, 4, 8, 12, 16, and so on, I can tell that this is going to be more than 1 whole. I'm going to have multiple whole groups being pulled out of this fraction. So let's start by pulling out 1 group of 4 fourths. 11 fourths minus 4 fourths equals 7 fourths. Before I write 7 fourths on the other side of this decomposition, can I pull another group of 4 fourths out? I can. 4 fourths and another 4 fourths is 8 fourths. I still haven't had enough groups for 11 fourths. 11 fourths take away 8 fourths is just 3 fourths. Not enough to make another whole group. 1 plus 1 plus 3 fourths equals 2 wholes, 1, 2, and 3 fourths. Now before you finish this video, you're going to do one more problem, but this time I'm going to loosen the reins a little bit and I'm going to let you free. I'm going to give you the multiplication sentence and then I'm going to prompt you to pause the video and see if you can figure out how to multiply it and decompose it into a mixed number. So here is our final challenge. 7 times 1/2. Take a moment to pause your video and see if you can solve this one independently. I'm serious, pause the video because when you come back, I'll be solving it step by step. Even if you're not sure, give it a shot. See what you can do on your own, and then if you're wrong, just go back and correct it. Who's going to know the difference? Give it a try, and I'll see you after you pause. In 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back. Let's solve this step by step. First step, 7 times 1/2 equals 7/2. Now it's time to pull out groups of 1 whole. I pulled out 1 whole. 7/2, take away 2/2, leaves me with 5/2. I still have enough where I can pull another 1 whole. Two halves plus 2/2 equals 4/2. 7/2, take away the 4/2, equals 3/2. I still have enough to pull out another group. I'm getting closer. 2, 4, 6/2. That leaves me with only 1/2 left. I had to decompose this into 4 separate groups to get 1 whole, plus 1 whole, plus 1 whole, plus 1/2, for a total of 3 wholes and 1/2. So now it's your turn to move on to the assignment for this lesson. Upload a photo of your notes, and then move on to the next part of this assignment.